so many walk-ins as a church recently. Yeah, no, seriously, clap it up. Like, it's impressive. It's part of my job to pay attention to that kind of stuff, but we have had 1 to 2 every week with the odd week of 3 walk-ins, which is actually quite a bit. And I just want to kick off by saying that there is something really attractive about our church. It's getting people in the doors. For the last few months, I've noticed this trend. So, reason I was late to jump in is I was meeting one of our walk-ins today and inviting them to some of the stuff we got going on. So I appreciate y'all's patience with me. Just to introduce the open forum again, like we did last week, this is an opportunity for us as a church to talk about things that are on our mind, share ideas we have, point out problems we might see, and things that need to be addressed so that we can collaborate as a church together to becoming the best church that we can to continue the mission of showing God's love to Pacific Beach. Now, if any of you guys have been following the emails that we send out, you may have heard that this month in particular, I want to spend some time talking about 3 questions. And those 3 questions being, what is our church strong at? Not what should we be strong at, not what do we want to be strong at, but what are we presently gifted for and skilled at? That's question 1. Question 2 is, what are the needs of our community? What are the areas, what are the things in Pacific Beach that we as a church can provide? And that can be spiritual, that can also be physical. I mean, anything from PB needs the love of Jesus, which is true, to PB needs a great preschool, which is also true. I just gave you one of the answers. And the third question, where do those things overlap? As we as a church and church leadership try and figure out what the next moves for the church are, it's important that we figure out where the overlap is between what we are skilled at and what our community needs. The way I want to kick this off is I actually would love to give us all some time to pray for one another. We did that last week, and it felt really great. And then I want you to stay in your prayer group of 3 to 4 people and talk about those 3 questions for about 10 minutes. Then we'll all gather together and go through them together. And we are still going to have the time, like last month as well, to have the open forum to bring things up and whatnot. But let's start there. If you would turn to the people around you in groups of 3 to 4 or 2 to 5, I mean, whatever works best for you, if you would just pray for one another and talk about those 3 questions. I'm going to do a quick call outside to make sure people know that we've begun while you all... Thank you. Were you guys here at our forum last month? How do you feel? Well, right now we're just kicking off this one, giving people a chance to pray for one another or something we started last week. People really liked it, so we're trying to find new ways to pray for one another. And as little groups here, talking about the following 3 questions. What is our church good at? What does our community need? And where do those overlap? So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts there, but
the question stem in trying to guide church leadership and what should the next steps of our church be as we try to reach our community.
So what are the goals of the church? I think it's probably nice to one option is not, and these are great, informed and all that, but there's also something you said suggest about which is kind of a very discreet way people can give feedback. Because sometimes people are like, they don't know, maybe they're more shy. But they can because we all reach out and patient back. It's good that it's not a church.
Was it the young woman? Or the
My sister just turned 80. She had
I couldn't tell because it was,
Oh, I know you.
But that's okay. Maybe, but no, that's good. Reach out. Reach out. That's good.
Yeah.
Number two.
I said, I don't think she's still
So it would be nice to have a suggestion box and then some that is discreet.
You know, you're maybe the third or fourth person to point it out to me, which I think is confirmation enough that we ought to have something like that. Yeah, every time I bring it up, what people tell me is that, oh, that's what the Connect card is for. Someone can write it in.
Here's the problem. We did it for one person. But it's intimidating.
Yes. But something anonymous, more private.
A little bit discreet.
Yeah.
So it's like a big deal. And then the feedback like the one other component.
Fair enough. Hey, that's a great idea.
And all of just it doesn't have to be whatever comes here from the Wednesday night session.
Yeah, just a vehicle for people to be able to give input anonymously. I agree. Yeah. Hey. Oh, of course. Here, should I turn on the microphone? Or?
No, I was reading about piano systems before. I've been here for a million years. I think I have photos. Wouldn't it be awesome? Photos.
Because which one is which? Like when someone else is dying.
Don't even feel bad. I don't know people. The photo directory. It was. When was it last updated? I think it was last updated 2 years ago, but they didn't get everyone. It was kind of just like, hey, show up, we'll take your picture.
But it could be a work in progress. You know, maybe that one time is good, but let's say it's a work in progress. Oh, while you're at work, we'd love to have you as part of the photo. And you could accept the checkbox could be, how would you like to be included? And most people say, well, some of them disagree and say,
Yeah.
I like my everyone's
Get in your will.
just today said, they don't know. Picture, this is Harry Ross. Legacy that we show you can go over there once a year.
Oh, I agree, and that is, I know that's something that Era wants to take on. He's the kind of church photographer. Yeah. But there's a backlog of tech tasks, but I need to jump back on the book. Great suggestion.
All right, just taking an audible, folks. Do we feel like we want more time to keep talking about those, or we feel like we're ready to... Awesome. Well, hey, we'll start with... Oh, I am seeing 1,000 requests for more time from no one group in particular. So I'm going to come back in 2 minutes. 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning. The dad with better judgment stepped in. Yep. You all might remember my children's message from over a year ago where I had them color on my face with markers. Yeah. I haven't learned marker safety since then. Question number 1. What is our church good at? And again, I think it's really easy to answer this question as what do we want our church to be good at, which is a great conversation for another time, and what should our church be good at. But the first part of figuring out our next steps as a church and how to really bless our community is knowing our current strengths. So I want to ask you guys what you think our church is good at. Pat?
That new song we just did this morning, the new song we just sang, where it's talking about, the girl sneaks in and hides her face, and it gets teased, and then the traveler is ignored. What our church does well is we don't do that. I find that this is a very loving congregation, and that whole piece of our congregation shunning someone or not accepting someone, that's not who we are, and we do that well, and that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I have received a lot of feedback from the walk-ins that they do feel abundantly welcomed and loved. I think one thing this church can really claim is that we are a really inviting and loving church. The young woman who was one of our walk-ins today, Brenna, was telling me just that. She grew up in the mega church environment, and it worked for her when she was young, but she was really looking for something more intimate, more cozy, and she said our church was exactly what she was hoping for this Sunday. So I am absolutely with Pat there. Mac?
That I've seen, our church is really good at responding to a call or to a need. If there's a call going out to say, we need something, we want to support something, we want to get some volunteers to do something, we're going to open up this church to be part of something. The outpouring of energy, of finance, of care, I've never seen the church falter. It's been really nice to see.
Thank you. Yes, giving. I'm going to walk the microphone back to Rubiana. Of course.
I think we're wonderful in the way we respond and treat each other like family. If someone has an illness, a sickness, a need, whatever, we're all there helping and calling and taking care of each other. And I think that's wonderful. Praise God.
And if you're looking at my sloppy handwriting and having a hard time reading it, don't worry. I'm going to type all this up later too. And I saw a hand back here.
I was just going to say one of our biggest blessings is the physical space. Facilities, the wonderful physical space that we're blessed to have is a huge asset.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. That's a thing that's other churches struggle with. I know you all know that. So having your physical property is good. I think the music is always nice. The multiple, it's entertaining and also strong at all levels. I mean, you look to the right, you have great voices. You look straight on, you have a great band, and it's always a good thing. So that's a good part of it.
Thank you very much. Both great answers. I know when I collaborate with a lot of other churches often, once a month I go to a gathering of Presbyterian youth ministers, and when I tell them about our space and how it's already paid off and things like that, they are practically shaking with jealousy. And I agree on the strong music program front too. That is one of the pieces of feedback I keep receiving from our walk-in guests, that they're really enjoying our blended music that we have. There's been a big shift. I shouldn't say shift. I haven't been long enough to call it alive long enough to call it a shift. There's been a trend among younger people in a return to desiring traditional music during the service, but they don't necessarily want to ditch the more modern or contemporary worship either. And so the blended service, I'm hearing from a lot of people that we're really hitting a niche they're looking for. So let me write those down as well. Facilities. Music. All right, any other?
Pat and Chelsea singing today like in the old days. And I love the new music and everything, but it's very nice to also hear some of the old.
Absolutely. I'm not going to write Pat and Chelsea's name on the board because then I'm going to get jealous, but we all know. Any other thoughts of what is our church strong at right now?
What was our attendance today?
Oh, I didn't count. Just over 70. Wow. Mac, you keep a better eye on this stuff than I do. Is that 73 is a larger than normal number? All right, praise God. That's awesome. Any other points of strength or skill for our church? Oh, making it all the way to Jim. I'm just going to say this too. A lot of y'all want to project without the microphone, but everything that we're saying is being recorded on the board. So that's, are you sure you want to talk, Jim? And this is going down in history.
I'm just saying we're very fortunate to have the location we have as far as visibility goes. Most churches, they're hidden away in neighborhoods and they don't get seen by nearly as many people as see our church. We're right in the middle of it.
Did I see a hand over here? I'll be really quick.
I'd like to mirror the importance of some traditional songs as well. I love the modern as well. It's all good, and I like the bells. I'm just saying that's a good thing to keep in mind as well, because we know the traditional ones as well. And the other thing is nice is the tech has been a very helpful contribution, not having to always open the books, but sometimes seeing it up there, and it's, hats off to the tech components that have been happening.
Yeah, and we actually have a bit of an update as far as... You would think I've never done this before. Speaking of tech, we have a bit of a positive update regarding tech in our sanctuary coming on a little bit later. Keep your ears tuned. Thank you very much. Irene?
I want to say that we really have a strength in caring for the homeless community.
Yeah. I was waiting for someone to say it. Between Sunday night dinner and our mail program, I think we have one of the most...
And CCSA, and now We See You San Diego. We are reaching out in a lot of ways.
I mean this honestly. I think we have one of the most robust homeless ministries of any of the churches that I've worked for. Are we serving as many people at our dinner as the biggest dinners around? Probably not. But are they receiving the same quality of meal, complete with vegetables, fruit, homemade meals every single week, a mail program just across the alley, CCSA providing resources most days of the week? No.
You can say CCSA feeds 60
A day?
Monday through Friday for lunch.
Every single day it's 60?
That's what their average is.
Wow. So,
You need to repeat it because they can't hear it.
yep. Irene had just mentioned that, our dinner might serve 50 to 60. We See You might serve up to 140 in a single day, but We See You every day, Monday through Friday, or CCSA, thank you. CCSA serves 60 people lunch every single day, Monday through Friday. So when we talk about the strengths of our church, homeless ministry is one of our greatest strengths right now. Joy in the back, Asher.
Just, Pat mentioned preschool, but you didn't put it there.
Oh, thank you. And just to give the preschool ministry the same plug I gave the homeless ministry, we currently have, don't quote me on the exact number, but I think it's over 60 families on our preschool wait list right now. Just to share a brief story, a couple months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago now, we had a woman come in to our church, and I asked her how she heard about us, was she new to the area? And she's like, oh, well, I just got my child on the preschool wait list, heard there was a church connected to the preschool, wanted to come check you guys out. And I say, oh, that's incredible. How old is your child? And she says, oh, I'm only 3 months into my pregnancy, but all of the moms are telling me this is the preschool to go to and to get my name on the wait list now, which is hilarious. But I think just goes to show how incredible our preschool is across the alley there and the program that Amy is running. I mean, I go to the park and I hear and I see other preschool families that I know from here, and they're telling other families there about how incredible our preschool is. This is a distant dream, not trying to get anyone's hopes up, but I even had a parent recently approach me and say, hey, could you guys expand your preschool program during the summer to provide child programs and events between the ages of 5 to 9? Because I know 20 families that would sign up right now if you guys did it and would pay whatever you charged. And that's awesome. We're not there yet, but that just goes to show how well received our preschool is.
Don't forget our director of preschool is awesome.
Amy is something else. She is changing the game, and the preschool is doing really well under her leadership.
Well, we got the classrooms.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to say. One of our strengths is the foundation.
Yes.
That we've got, like our parents and grandparents that built all this stuff for us. We have a lot of legacy there.
Yeah, I'm gonna write down elders/legacy.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but something that I've been really trying to communicate in the way I talk about preschool ministry now is, especially at our church, many of us gathered here have a unique opportunity to play grandparent to a lot of our preschool families that might not have it or could expand their village with some of the coolest elders that I know. And as me and Stacy and the rest of our team on preschool ministry work to bridge the gap between the preschool and us, leaning on our elders and our legacy as a church to serve them in ways that only grandparents can, if you remember Emily McCall's sermon from earlier this month, is going to be crucial to developing that ministry. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a strong church. I didn't think we were going to get this much on the board.
I think one of the areas that we've been growing is that I remember a few years ago we had all of our seniors in high school graduate, and it decimated our youth program. The youth program is growing again, and it's starting to show fruit as the youth are starting to get involved in the service. I love it.
Asher, you remember how every time you sign up for something I say, thanks for making me look better at my job? That's what that was right there. If you could keep on doing that, my annual review is coming up. Thank you. We have an awesome youth group, but I can't take any credit for it. Asher is one of our student leaders who serves at everything I ask and 90% of the things I don't ask. And what I have found is that when Asher jumps, can we please clap for Asher? Absolutely. And what I have found is that when Asher gets involved, the rest of the students follow. So, Asher, thank you for being a ministry leader at this church.
He's taught me you're a good mentor.
We can go to Vicky and then Joy and then back to Tammy.
I'm going to change the subject just a little bit, but it all sort of includes. I think where Tony is being a discipleship leadership for all of us and bringing in a lot of new people and welcoming people. Like he said, he was late coming here because of someone that was new and he wanted to talk to. I think because he has been around and with us and learning about what we need and everything. And Grant grew up in this church. Grant has gone off and done all the study and learning and everything else that he's done. And between Grant and Tony, I think we have everything we need to make this church just grow and grow and grow with young people, with middle-aged people, with older people, with little kids and the whole group. I think the teenagers and the middle teens and the old people like me and whatever, I think we can all benefit from having Tony and Grant and Era and those who, like doing what Jesus did. Because Jesus taught to all the people, but mainly he got to a lot of young people, and that's what we need. So I know it was a sort of change in subject, but it sort of fit, so.
Thank you, Vicki. Out of respect to Chelsea and Pat, when I said I wouldn't put their name on the board, I'm not going to put our names down either. But something that I have mentioned to the session is I firmly believe that everyone at this church, me or whoever else, have been called to by God for the specific purpose of revitalizing this church. And I think we all have something really crucial to provide. So I'm just glad for each and every person here in the room and all of the people who have, throughout the years and in our legacy, have got us to where we are now, because good things are coming, and I'm confident of that. Joy?
It's both an extension of the first topic and Vicky's is there's been a resurgence of a young adult group. There's traditionally been somehow a continual youth program, but the young adult group being a functional thing is pretty new and both critical and amazing. So.
I'm going to say this because Will and Kenneth have heard me say this a bunch and they get mad at me for it. I'm staging a coup. I'm working with all of our young adults to replace everyone here. Yeah. The young people are coming for your elder positions in 6 to 8 years. See, I told you, Will, they want the coup.
How about don't call it a coup? That just makes it worse. Like, voluntary handover is better.
I'm calling it a coup, actually. No, jokes aside, it's been really refreshing to see a community of young people really rising up, getting involved, going to the life groups, and hopefully soon their voices joining at the committee level as well. But it is really, really hard to build a community for people you don't have, and that's the honest truth. But what's exciting is I feel like we have a community now formed for people to get plugged into. And I think the reason we've seen so many young people showing up to our church, walking in, staying a part of what's going on. I think many of y'all may have met Jonathan by now, who's been here for 3 to 4 weeks, when before a walk-in might come twice and we don't see them again. Now we have walk-ins that are coming here 4 or 5 times, and hopefully much more is by the formation of that young adult group. So thank you, Joy. And I'm going to write young adult community here. I'm running out of board space, guys. It's just how strong is our church. One more for Tammy.
I think we've done a good job on our outreach with the community. We've worked with the Graffiti Day. We've worked with the Clean San Diego. We're working with the We See You group, the parade. We have done, I think, a good job of working with the community. We're not always a central group of that running it, but we're working with our community and we're not totally separate from it. So I think our outreach group has done a good job of connecting us with the community, even though a lot of us don't even live in Pacific Beach.
Man, I feel like I'm just doing a lot of good news sharing up here, but it's good because I'm here at church often and I see a lot of cool things happening that you guys might not. So I'm going to be the bearer of good news for you all. Just recently, we got to host the PB Town Council in Calvin Hall this past Wednesday because their typical venue was unavailable. I got to meet Caleb, the president of the PB Town Council, who is a 25-year-old, which always shocks me when I meet someone my age in a position like that. And he was just saying how highly regarded our church is on the PB Town Council for our partnership at Graffiti Cleanup, our willingness to host them on a relatively last-minute request, things like that. And we had some great conversations about continued partnership. I definitely tried to push him in the direction of continuing to host the PB Town Council meetings at our church, and we'll see if anything comes of that. But on a basic level, he said that he would be at our trunk or treat with a car of his own to try and invite people to other PB-related events and just continue to strengthen that bridge. And so I know on a Sunday you don't often hear about the movement in those kinds of directions, which is why we do these things, right? So we can talk about it. But good things are happening at our church. The challenge for us is going to be to continue to ride that momentum.
Yeah. There are two more items that I wish to address. One, people will sometimes ask me about the bells, the Friday noon bells that we used to have, the chimes.
I got some good news for you.
Oh, please have them because the community misses that. And secondly, I'm thinking that a way of bringing more people in the community to our churches, perhaps through the parking lot, because they all use our parking lot during the week. If they could be parking by permit only, they would have to come to the office to sign up and get a card to put on their windshield. And that way we can send them emails and whatnot and invite them to come. The apartments back here, how many apartments? Hundreds.
I will say on that front, I don't know where Pat ran off to, but Pat and Stacy, hiding in the back, have been working week to week, day by day, to get our parking system up and running. We recently committed to work with a group called Faith Park, who's going to manage all of that for us. And when people pay for their parking, it goes right into VaneCo, into our tithing system, and it's going to be beautiful and great when they get it going. Yeah, and kudos to Stacy and Pat for working on that one. We're really just working on Faith Park now to do their part, but there is movement in that direction too.
So the update is we have North Shore Printing. We're going to talk about community for a second. So we have been working with North Shore Printing forever. They love us, we love them, they're just right on Turquoise. And Faith Park was having a hard time finding a vendor to do our signage, and that's the holdup. So their vendor basically didn't respond back to them. They couldn't get the signs done. They reached out to us, do you know anyone? So we reached out to North Shore Printing, and they're handling the whole job. They came out here last week, Tuesday, took a look at where we need signs and what needs to be up, and they're gonna get those printed, and we should be, I'm thinking in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we should be up and running with the Faith Park. So that's what's going on, which is super cool because now the people at Faith Park thanked us for giving them a new vendor that they can now use for other churches, not just our own. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, go PB.
Go PB. Thank you, Pat. I want to move on to the next question. And the way this is going to work is I want to ask you guys what our community's needs are. And if they touch any of these things that we've already written, I'm going to put like a red star or something next to it. If it doesn't touch any of these things, I'm going to write it off to the side, and then we as a church need to figure out how do we get good at that? Are we, or how can we exactly? So that was the next question. What does the community of Pacific Beach need? Help for the homeless? Yeah. That is one that we can sleep easy with at night, knowing that we are meeting our call. Preschool, yep. Thank you. I got a bonus whiteboard now. We're expanding. Thank you, Era. Anyone else have thoughts of what are our community needs? Community connections. What do we mean by community connections exactly? So I guess the community need is, the community needs people serving at these various service opportunities. They need servants, I guess would be how I would boil that down. Volunteer, yeah. And we are connected with our community. We are good at that. Perfect.
I think outreach things that are, for example, the Halloween thing, that'll be great. And the painting, those are things that I think that families will look at and go, oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, I'm going to call that a space to belong. I'm going to repeat it into the microphone, but things where people can come and participate in the community, right? Like our trunk or treat. Just places for members of our community to be and partake. Something that I hear a lot from people my age. I ask my more secular friends all the time. I say, hey, what would it take to get you to try out church without converting you to a new religion? And the answer I keep hearing back is a space to experience community, a space to belong. A lot of folks my age keep on finding that the only spaces we can really go just to hang out, just to be, usually involves buying a lot of expensive alcohol. And so there's this desire to find community in spaces that aren't that.
I think you touched on that good. I have little girls in high school now, and I think that there's nowhere to go for what you described. That'd be the right age group. I think a family-based, family-friendly based site, and I like the outreach that we do, but a lot of it has to be somewhat separate. If it's your teenage daughters going in at the youth group, for example, that's a great option. But things like that, it's got to be a safe environment. It have to feel like, oh yeah, it's not something that's dangerous. That's a real family thing. So.
And you know what? I'm actually going to write this one off to the side. And it's something that I know our church wants to get better at, and we're going in that direction, but I don't think we're there yet. And that is family ministry spaces. Right now, we have spaces where young adults can be served. We have spaces where teenagers can be served. And we're doing a lot of cool stuff for preschool families. But for families that want to get involved and serve together, it's not like we don't have options. But it is true that we don't have very much that's made intentionally for them. And that's a big crux of what I'm hearing there is spaces for families to serve. I see Irene's hand, and she'll be the first one to mention Sunday night ministry is a great place to do that. And helping on Saturday, too. Absolutely. I don't want to say those spaces don't exist. That is not true at all. But I think and it's going to happen naturally as we watch our growing preschool ministry age up. We will grow with them. But that, to me, is one of the growth opportunities for our church, is refiguring out, re-navigating what it means to build a family ministry for people with kids over the age of 5. But great points. Any other community needs that people have identified?
With the love of Christ, I think is very important.
Amen. Yeah.
We're the image, we're the,
It's true. Yeah, and it's funny, we haven't touched on any of the spiritual needs of our community yet, right? Of a need to know Jesus, a need to experience Christ-centered community. And it's hard to pick any one of these things as touching that bracket because it all kind of floats together. But I will say, and I'm going to give Kenneth some credit here, one thing, and this falls on me, it's squarely in my job description, is a strong spiritual discipleship opportunities here at our church. We're doing a lot in the community building and the relationship aspect, but there is some work that could be done for spiritual depth and drawing people in deeper in spiritual discipleship. I'm going to give credit to Kenneth. We've been talking about starting a young adult Bible study that he would lead. It's one of the things that I want to put some bandwidth to, but I've been spread a little thin. But Kenneth has been a big advocate for it and has gathered some materials to run it. And so I'm going to say that absolutely a need of the community, and I think we are growing stronger there. Did I see another hand go up?
I think that the preschool coming here for chapel, that's part of that, and a very strong part for that.
Yeah, the spiritual development of our preschoolers is not something you think about often, but we're seeing great work there. There is something uniquely heartwarming when I walk out there to pick up Jonah and I see kids playing chapel, where one kid will stand in front of all of them, and I think they just started shouting the name Jesus at each other. And then there's a video Amy sent us of them practicing our chapel dances and songs together that the teachers aren't pushing, they're just doing it. Or the raw delight they had when we gifted them children's Bibles when they have graduated out of the preschool, with parents who have already left the preschool calling back to the preschool and saying, wow, these children's Bibles, they don't let us read them anything else anymore. They love it so much. Some good stuff is happening in our preschool ministry for sure. Will, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say from like what the community could use, like what the community of PB could use, is I feel like kind of an anchoring in authentic relationships as opposed to superficial and let's just say productive or networking type relationships. I feel like something I see as a young adult is so often we're grounded in relationships that are for self-serving. You try to form a relationship to either say something about you or get something, and I think unfortunately, as much as I love this town, I think that's something I see in a lot of places. And I think the secret thing is people love authentic connection, even when it's awkward, even when it hurts. And I think that seems like something that the church could offer that you can't find at a boxing hangout and that you can't find at a run club. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Will. Absolutely. There's a real need for depth of relationship. Something I hear about the West Coast often, I've only lived in San Diego, so maybe this is bogus, is that on the West Coast, we do a great job of being nice but not kind. And I think church is one of the places where we're really good at being kind. And I agree, and the real question is, how do you market that, right? How do you convince people, like the spies that we heard about in today's sermon, to come and see this promised land of church, where there is truly authentic, deep, kind relationships? Man, I don't know, but we're figuring it out. But we absolutely have the strength and the need in the community to provide true, deep relationship with one another. I tack that onto caring for one another, because that's really where that's formed. And I've said this before to you guys, but you all might know I have a tough and strained relationship with my family. And the thing that kept me coming to youth group was a love that I experienced that I wasn't finding at home or anywhere else in my life at the time. And that love has followed me from the Ed building all the way into the sanctuary. And truthfully, there's no place that's treated me as well as this church. And I'm not talking about a great job offer and things like that. I mean genuine people stepping up to be dads to me, moms to me, grandparents to me. And when I get passionate about ministry, it's because I want to have other people in our community experience that same thing. And I know we have it in us to do it. So thank you, Will, for sharing. Are we ready to move on to the last question? I mean, we pretty much already covered it as we did the first one, but where is the overlap in the things our community needs and the things that we are good at? And it sounds like the big ones are, maybe our primary core motivations for right now ought to be being a community connected to PB, serving the homeless, serving our preschoolers, caring for one another, and continuing to be a welcoming church. And growing in the space of providing family ministry spaces, which that work is being done. I don't want to make it sound like we've given up on that or we're not even thinking about it. I just think we have some more room to grow here. And that's not to say the rest of these things aren't valuable, right? Our location is going to be what allows people to find us to get those authentic relationships. Our music program might be a point for someone to get involved and find that depth of relationship. A preschool family might be discipled because they come serve at our homeless ministry, right? But I think it's really helpful for us as church leadership to see, okay, these things with the stars on the surface appear to be where our strengths are intersecting with our community needs. Thank you guys for engaging in that exercise with me. I know it took a little while, but I think it was a really great opportunity for us as a church just to remember how gifted we are. I think oftentimes it can feel a little discouraging to come to church and see the pews or the amount of congregants shrink in size, to hear budget reports of that we are not making as much as we used to. And that is tough, and there are things we can do about that, but it's important to remember that we have so much going for us still. I often joke that any church plant would kill for what we have as a church, for our location, for our committed members, for all of these things. And I think that we are going to be very impressed with what God still has in store for this church, so long as we keep doing the work of keeping an ear to what he's calling us to. Now, I'm going to jump to, can I flip this around? Nope, no I cannot. To my other board. But first, I kind of want to recap on some of the things we talked about and give you guys some updates. Last month, we talked about a lot of things that people got really excited about, namely some sanctuary improvements, some landscaping improvements, really just upping the quality of our aesthetics and spaces was one of the big ones. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I forgot to make a point to our elders and committee leaders to follow up on those things and get ready to provide an update on that. So I'm not going to today, because I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And I know, especially for worship and music, there was so much to talk about with Christmas and everything else that we didn't get a chance to have a deep conversation there. And by the next one, I will have our committee leaders and session members speak to those things. But one area we have had some movement is the bell tower, which was brought up a little bit earlier. Era, would you mind sharing about that? Kenneth, I didn't warn you about this, but I'm going to have you stand up at some point soon.
Test. Yeah, so essentially for the bell chime tower, working with Kenneth and Steve, we've identified a possible system to install. Basically, Kenneth drafted up a shopping cart, I filled in the blanks, sent it to Steve. Steve has ordered it, so the parts are on the way. Once we assemble them, we install them, we write the code for it. We can have any song or sound we want to play at any time. And the amplifier and all this will be
recorded
managed.
Or otherwise, just to clarify.
Recorded. So recorded music can be played at regular intervals. I think Grant had the idea of having like a dawn and a dusk bell, and then during noon, like a longer piece that might play, as an example. But that infrastructure is coming. We can install it, and then we can, do what we want. have that. We can have that functionality.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were really excited about the opportunity of getting that bell tower functioning again. I know Rubiana mentioned there's a community desire for it. I just want to give a shout out to Kenneth. I talk about him a lot because he's an example of my job going well. So this is all for brownie points for me, just kidding. But Kenneth has been coming to our church for the past year. You wouldn't have known it because you've been attending Roots as long as it lasted, and then Theology on Tap afterwards. And just recently, in the past few months, he's become a regular presence with us on Sunday morning, which has been awesome. But he has a particular skill set and gifting in electrical engineering. Yeah.
Right.
And was able to partner with ERA to resolve some of the technical hurdles in getting the bell tower up and running, and just jumped right up in providing that shopping cart of things that we would need. And this is just one example of a new young person going through all the processes and is now actively involved in giving back to the church in their talents. Their literal talents, not biblical talents in this case. And we'll be going through a baptism and membership soon. So, Kenneth, thank you so much. Anyways, that's what I have for y'all in the ways of updates from last month. I'm going to, again, reach out to committee leaders to take what we talk about and sprinkle them into their committee conversations so that we can provide updates the next round. But just like last week now, I want to ask you guys if there's any topics of conversation that you want to hit. Doesn't have to be as long as last time. Certainly can be. I know we've already talked about so much already, but is there anything as a congregation we want to speak to, talk about, question? No. Ruby on it.
I'm still holding on to bringing the community, the apartments, the people around. They see the building here, but they may not go online to hear about us. How do we get them here? We need to do something to have them know we're here and that they want to come and learn about us.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. This is just off the top of my head. It kind of just inspired something. I have recently met a family who lives in the apartments just across from us on Hornblende. Thank you, Joy. You would think after coming to this church for the last 15 years, I would know my streets. But they live in the apartments on Hornblende, and I was talking about our church, and they said, oh, man, I used to serve at Sunday night dinner back when Neil ran it. And for some reason or another that we don't need to get into, they didn't have the best experience and decided to stop serving. And I told them, hey, we have someone new taking over. The atmosphere of the dinner has changed. It's a much more loving space. Things are going really well. You should come check it out. And they were like, oh, sounds great. They never did. But my point is, I think that I know a lot of people at my age love service opportunities when we can find ways to get to them. And I wonder if it'd be worth doing some kind of marketing or advertising push to let everyone know, hey, our dinner is under new leadership, or these are service opportunities we have just across the street. Come check it out. We've done mailers before. We put like an invite into every mailbox, basically. Just a thought off the top of my head, but I think that might be one way to get them more involved. Any other? Oh, yeah.
One part about as you drive by a church, sometimes you don't know what time the sermons are. So just a big sign that says, anyone welcome. But maybe it's more signage. I just don't know that answer. It should be like very obvious when. There's the most basic part of it, which is Sunday services. Maybe I'm missing it. And go ahead. It should also obviously have a feeling of family-friendly safety. That's my thing. Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing that up, actually, because I know that was something that Steve Ritz wanted to talk about, although he wasn't able to make it today. At our most recent mission and outreach meeting, we started talking about getting additional signage for the church. The bits of signage that we've added have been really well received. Whenever we do an event like the Trunk or Treat, new families come in and they say, wow, that was really helpful. There was one family I remember who said, I drive past your church all the time just to see if there's an event coming up. And so signage works. And one thing that Steve was going to ask today was that if anyone had any ideas for the aesthetic vibe, what should be on the signage. I heard pushing for safety, pushing for the service times, things like that. But we wanted to open the floor and see if anyone had any thoughts as far as what should be on the signage. I recommended something that really spoke to community. Like I loved the phrase, come find community at PB Pres, or find your community, or whatever verbiage we land on. But we wanted to ask you guys that as well. Any thoughts?
Well, now that we have an electrical engineer here.
I know. Kenneth, I put you on the spot. Now you're going to get, now people know. Oh man, those marquees are awesome. And actually, there has been some research done. I think I read this in a Thomas Rainier book about having those electric marquees is actually something that basically screams at your community. Our church is alive. We still do things. We're still keeping up with the times. Definitely something you can look into, but it is a big project. A lot goes into them. Yeah.
So at least the last time we looked into it, that was the reason the city did it.
Well, hey, there's some good news in that too. It's a busy intersection. That is interesting. We'll have to keep on thinking and praying about how to best take advantage of that busy intersection. Lily, would you mind passing the mic to Irene? But then I do want the mic to get back to you as well.
Maybe consider a different location than that corner. I mean, we have this end of the building, we have the corner of the preschool, where a lot of people drive by.
I don't want to speak for Steve. I think the idea with the extra signs was to be able to have signs in extra spots. because the spots we have them are being seen. I'm not necessarily going to claim they're the best spots possible.
The key doesn't have to be front center.
Right.
Once people learn where it is, they'll drive by it.
Thank you. I misunderstood your point. Still pursuing the electric marquee, but in doing it in a spot that doesn't hit the intersection the city won't let us put it in. That is something worth considering. I'm going to make a note of that.
Or maybe if it's not one of the big expensive electric ones, the little plastic ones like El Arroyo Mexican Restaurant in Austin, maybe y'all have all seen their little, their little sign they put up front. It's white. It's a board like that, and you put the letters and you spell out some funny Bible verse. Everybody around the country does it. Just something funny, and you change them all the time.
Joke of the day.
Yeah,
Hey.
On every cup, all over.
Embarrassing question. Is marquee MARQUIS?
QUEE. And then Lily wants to talk about social
All right.
media.
I still feel like I spelled it wrong, but I'll trust you guys. I'm a minister, not a spelling teacher. Lily, before we talk about signage, I think you had something you wanted to say.
It's a bit similar to like advertising our church and kind of introducing it to the community. I feel like now, since social media is a very big part of young adults' lives, we could like use that to our advantage by making like accounts of some sort and kind of introducing our church to the community in that way, so it reaches more people. Because I feel like that might be like nowadays everyone usually has some form of social media, so that might be a way that we could do that.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, y'all might not, you would never know, our church does have social media accounts, and we have a social media manager who manages those accounts. But the difficulty we run into, and I'm part of the problem, is we do these amazing, incredible events, and no one takes, I shouldn't say no one, but at many of the events, people aren't taking pictures to post them. Some folks like Mac are the photography champions of our church, who I sometimes feel like we would never have a photo if it wasn't for you, Mac. And I'm partnering with Era more often for him to be in a role where he can take photos at events. The last few I've had him running a photo booth to take pictures of people at the event rather than taking photos of the event. But yeah, we are absolutely trying to engage social media, let me write that down, more effectively. And I think there is some good stuff in the pipeline there. The other big one that I will mention, because I know that Ari, the gal that runs our social media, brings up often, is it's not just enough these days to have a strong social media account, but we also need people to interact with our social media account to help boost it. I think I'm the only 25-year-old in the world that doesn't have any social media, so I'm not the best person to speak to this, but for our young people listening, when we do... No, you don't have social media either, Will?
No, just LinkedIn. That's long as they force me to have it.
Will, I'll get an Instagram if you get an Instagram.
Absolutely.
I'll work on it. But, when we get people who are on social media to interact with our content, it helps boost it and get more people to see it. But, Lily, you are 100% right that there is plenty of area of opportunity in our social media as well. Any other, thank you for sharing. Any other topics people want to bring up? We're kind of jumping around all loosey-goosey, so if you want to go back to an old topic, we can do that as well. All right. Oh, yep.
What about, with the signage, somebody's looking for something to do? What if we did, like, once a month, have a community thing once a month? Like a huge game night, or, I don't know, come and learn music.
Yeah, all great points. And this is one of those things that is something we're really going to have to prayerfully navigate. Is you may have noticed, but this is a congregation that has been around for quite a while. And one area that we can, what am I trying to say here? We only have so much bandwidth to do so many things. And so it's going to be very important that we spend our effort, our limited effort, doing the most important things, to which I think that is one of them. One of the things I have found that I think has really helped our young adult community is a once a month game night that I've started for them. And it is incredible and it's awesome and I love it. And I would love to see that momentum and energy spread throughout other church events as well. But it's going to require people to get involved or get more involved, and many of us are already very involved. So I love it, and I will just say, from a growing a church point of view, a once a month fun get together has been the game changer, the secret sauce I have found in growing that young adult community. Finding whatever that looks like for the rest of the church, also going to be very important and something we want to prayerfully navigate. Great suggestions all around. I'm going to write that down as well. And I think that's actually the beauty of our life groups, just to talk about that, is that when you find something you're passionate about doing together, it can feel really life-giving and not like all that much work. And I think part of becoming the church that we are called to be and revitalizing our church is creating these regular community meetups, these life groups for all of the people of PB. I think one of the reasons that Young Adult Game Night went off so well was because we did not have something like that for our young adults. I know that what I experienced when I was 17, 18, 19 at this church was I graduated youth group, and then the only other thing for me was Theology on Tap, which was fun, but it wasn't scratching that community itch that youth group was, right? Of just a space just to be silly and have fun and become friends with the people around me. And I think that as we develop and advance our life groups, those can be our once a month or once a week community opportunities. Asher, can we get the mic over to Irene?
What about opening our life groups to put on social media that it is a community event, not just the church?
Absolutely. That is definitely a hurdle for us to jump, is transitioning our life groups from just gatherings within the church, but invitations to the community. Another book I was reading recently made the point that most people, actually I don't know if that's what they said, I don't know if it said most, but they said a lot of people these days are joining churches not through their Sunday morning services, but through their life group gatherings. Maybe Sunday morning service can feel a little intimidating or strange, but I can go to something called Theology on Tap where I can grab a drink and talk about the Bible. Or, maybe I'm already a Christian, I'm not attending church. I'm going to go join a Bible study, find out I love all the people there, and then check out their church afterwards as well. And so utilizing social media is going to be a big part of jumping that hurdle, but even just reframing the way we talk about our life groups as things to invite people to, things to welcome them into, is going to be huge for growing the church. And if you've ever heard me when I'm greeting our new walk-ins, the first thing I do is tell them about the life group I think they would fit best into. If there's someone more my age, it's Theology on Tap. If there's someone that might not value a space like that, I tell them about the Cookbook Club or the Ritz's Bible Study, or I talk about our service opportunities with Irene on Saturday and Sunday. And I would bet you for just about most people, there is at least one community space someone will get excited about being able to participate in. Great point. I'm going to add that to the list. Inviting people to groups. Perfect. Anyone else have any thoughts? And I see some mentions that it's time to wrap up, and I think we are just about there. This is my last question for you guys, and it's okay if there's no answers, but I just want to make sure people know that they can. Session is meeting tomorrow night. Many of your elders are present. If there's anything that you feel like the session ought to talk about or have in mind as they go into their session meeting, now's that chance to bring it up, just because I think it's important that there's dialogue between our elected leaders and our congregation. But we've already talked about so much, it's very possible that's already been said. Yes?
At our last meeting, we talked about updating the church.
Yeah.
And I think that would be very expensive. But also, I think it would be better to do something like have a concert and have the whole neighborhood invited, or all of Pacific Beach. And I just think the money would be so much better spent doing that. Because I don't care what the seat covers are like, or, but maybe other people do. But
Yeah, I think it's a both and. We should definitely talk about that as a session as well, of what does enhancing our facilities look like? What does reaching out to the community continue to look like? But I think we're going to have to do that in addition, or as part of also developing our spaces. The thing that I just want to point out to everyone is people are walking in. The hard question is, why aren't they staying? And most walk-ins don't stick around to the church. That's just the reality of the situation. It's unrealistic to expect a church to retain everyone who walks in, because a lot of people do what's called church shopping nowadays. But I think there is work that we can do to make our church more appealing, more enticing, more desirable, whatever that means for the walk-in. And that can be everything from enhancing the spaces to developing deeper relationships. And I think running community events like concerts can be a big part of that. And bringing the calendar back so people can know what's happening. It's not a problem that there's any one fix to, but it's a problem that we're all working really hard on navigating. With that, I'm going to close this in prayer. And I just want to thank you all for being a part of this dialogue. If you would join me now. Heavenly Father, Lord God, we are grateful that you have given us so much to be excited for. Lord, church revitalization, church advancement, church in general is hard enough when we feel defeated, when we feel anxious, when we feel like there's an impossible task set before us. But Lord, even in those feelings and in that space, you continue to work on our behalf. Lord, we know that your will is unavoidable. The only question is whether or not we get to serve within that, Lord. But we are grateful that you have given us so much cause to be joyous, to celebrate, to find hope in things to come. Lord, I just pray that if things, that as our context changes, our circumstances change, when doubt creeps in, when fear creeps in, when despair creeps in, Father, that you allow us to remain focused on all that we have going for us. That we might remember that this is a race that we can finish and run, and there is good things coming, Lord. Lord, I just pray that these dialogues don't stop here, that they continue day to day, week to week, and that you keep us a congregation in prayer, that you draw us into your presence daily, hourly, by the minute, Father, that we might ever keep an ear to your will and to your word. Lord, we say all of these things in your Son's name. Amen. Thank you very much, everyone, for a very long open forum. It's these conversations that are going to revitalize this church. So thank you so much. Well, you can stand up. Don't worry. You won't offend me. Thank you very much, everyone. My pleasure.